Okay, I'm gonna talk about philosophy a little bit. Kind of the philosophy of human perception. So, when we perceive the world around us, we use our senses to perceive that world, and then we form opinions based on the things we observed, right? Whether it's the things we saw, or the things we heard, or even the things we felt, right? So, when we use this perception, we also use the things we've heard and learned and felt to create solutions to future problems, right? So, when we, for example, if we have, I don't know, if we have a conflict between two religious nations, okay, so Israel and Palestine, we look for solutions to that conflict. And the solution that we're seeing now is a militant solution, right? So we have to ask why the main solution we're coming up with is militant rather than perhaps, I don't know, a peace deal or something, right? The reason it's militant is because our perceptions have been filled with previous historically militant solutions to these problems. It's quite simple, actually. Our perceptions create the solutions that we come up with for problems. And if we spend our whole all of our time learning about historical historical wars, then we begin to perceive that there are perhaps no other solutions other than militant solutions, right? So it's beyond that, though. I'm going to introduce the concept of imagination into this video. So if instead of being bound, if instead of only looking at history for solutions to problems, if we instead look into our imagination, if we imagine other potential solutions, think about other things that may work better than militant solutions, then what will we come up with? Well, we'll come up with peace deals, right? And this is a very important thing to point out because when you were born, you're a blank slate. Okay, you maybe you're basically a computer, right, with an operating system, right? Your operating system is the human body, right? But there's nothing on the hard drive. There's no programs, right? And if you if the programs you download and the programs you run are those uh, that that only point to military solutions to conflicts, then those are the programs you're going to run for the solutions in the future, right? It's this concept that we're basically just a computer who are running programs, and if we forget that we have free will, or maybe we make ourselves believe that we don't have free will, then we step away from our imagination. We step away from creativity that leads to better solutions to problems, better solutions to conflict. So it's like I feel like a lot of people, particularly older people, they see the conflicts around the world, and they can't imagine any other solution but military conflict, and it's because that's all they've ever known. Perhaps they didn't have the luxury to imagine outside of those military bounds, right? But I feel like a lot of younger people today are kind of sick of it, right? And I'm not saying all older people are warmongers. That's not the point. But there's a lot of young people in particular who are sick of this military conflict, and they're coming out with non-militant solutions. It's interesting because I look at Vivek Ramaswamy, and he's like very anti-war, but yet he still is pushing all of the he's still pushing all of the traditional economically conservative talking points of the Republican Party, except he's anti-war, and he's also a little younger, right? Meanwhile, we have these other Republican and Democrat politicians who are just they cannot see any other solutions to these conflicts in the Middle East other than war, and it's because they don't have an imagination. They've spent their entire time learning about history learning about the previous solutions, ways that we solved problems, solved, with quotes, right? These conflicts, and therefore they can only come up with militant solutions. They they don't even they literally do not have the imagination to come up with other solutions. It's because they've effectively been brainwashed, right? They've been indoctrinated. That blank slate was loaded with a bunch of militant solutions to problems their entire lives, and they can't imagine. They cannot imagine a better solution. But if we think about even small problems, small conflicts, let's say two siblings are fighting, and a lot of older people can relate to this, right? Particularly older politicians might have two kids. They had two kids who were fighting at some point. Is the answer to let them fight to the death? No, no, it's not, right? The answer is maybe you let them fight a little bit, but maybe you scold them. Maybe you tell them to get along. Maybe you teach them to learn how to live with each other better. Why can't we apply this same mindset to militant conflicts? What's happening? It seems to me that what's happening is fear is getting in the way. We are so fearful of the opposition striking us that we overlook the peaceful solutions to problems that are always there. There's always a peaceful solution to a problem. And if you can't imagine that solution, it's because you have no imagination. It's because you've spent your entire life being brainwashed or indoctrinated by the militant solutions. And I imagine if you're a military commander, you're trained to come up with military solutions. You're not trained to come up with peaceful solutions to problems. It's like comparing a cop in the United States to a cop in the UK. I don't even think cops in the UK even carry guns, right? They're trained to de-escalate problems. It seems to me that many of the politicians we vote for, they're not trained to de-escalate problems. They're trained to escalate problems, right? If you look at history and you don't recognize the fact that conflict leads to more conflict, then you're not paying attention. On the other hand, if you teach people to get along, you teach people to accept differences, and in that process you accept diversity and you embrace diversity, then you can live peacefully and be different from each other at the same time. It seems like much of our education, much of our indoctrination is designed to point out the differences between groups rather than to encourage the acceptance of those differences. There's two types of individualism. Okay, there's the individualism that is defined by diversity, right? People living as individuals, right? And then there's the individualism defined as the opposite of collectivism, which is in effect, to some extent, an egotistical outlook, right? And what we want to do is we want to encourage the acceptance of that first kind of individualism. We want to encourage acceptance of diversity. And in that process, everyone can be individuals, but we exercise collectivistic societal structures while accepting that diversity. It's really simple when you think about reality this way. You have to understand that you're just a program. Like you have been programmed from the day you were born, and some people had the luxury of being programmed a little better than others, right? But we need some reprogramming, some deprogramming and reprogramming on a worldwide level. It's like there's a lot of Eastern cultures, religions and whatnot, Confucianism, Taoism, Hinduism. These they're not even traditionally called religions. They're almost just more of thought processes than anything. And we in the West have attached, and even the Middle East, we've attached ourselves to religions, right? To religions that we've decided are the only truth to this reality. There's a big difference between Eastern and Western culture that I'm trying to point out here, and it's the difference between individualism and collectivism. Okay, that dichotomy, rather than the individualism that is defined as diversity. So we need to pick up on that Eastern culture a little bit. It's like if you look at a solution, if you look at the conflicts in the world, if you look at the three major superpowers, Russia, the United States, and China, and your only able to imagine militant or economic competition between these nations, and you're not capable of imagining a collective economy that works for all the nations, then it's because you've been indoctrinated with the wrong shit. You've been indoctrinated with competitive mindsets, and you can't even imagine that maybe one day Russia, China, and the US will actually lead the world together peacefully. It's like we're so hell-bent on competition with these nations that some people literally can't imagine working with them. It's sad, really. And the people I look at with these mindsets, I feel bad for them, because for me it's like, wake the fuck up. What are you doing? Are you dreaming? What are you just trying to create conflict? To me, it doesn't make any sense. And again, I literally feel bad for them. I don't look down on them. I feel bad for them. I don't know. It's perhaps some people, again, have the luxury of being raised better than others, and I'm not saying that I was raised I better than everybody else, but it seems like too many people, they look at the media, and their perception is formed by the media. Their perception is formed by people with ill intentions, and when you let that happen, you become you feed into the ill intentions. I mean, that's just how it works. You have to build your perception around good intentions, okay? Not good intentions for your country, not nationalistic intentions, but internationalistic intentions. You can't look at the world today and be of the mindset that your country has to win, because that competition leads to war. That's the logical conclusion of extreme economic competition is war. And war fucks everyone over, namely the citizens, the innocent citizens of the countries that are fighting in it, right? If you instead adopt a mindset of abundance, and you try to spread that mindset to other people with empathy, and instead of fear propagation, what happens is those people who you help, they begin to see the good in the world, and they begin to help people. It's a chain reaction, and in the same way that a world war can spark off in a minute, world peace can spark off just as fast. It just takes empathy. It just takes a different mindset. Ultimately, it's the difference between being conscious of your militant programming, becoming conscious of that militant programming, and deprogramming it into a mindset of abundance and a mindset of collectivism rather than competition and individualism. So, just a little philosophy for you, and thanks for watching.